is Roger Green, host of the SurfingMASH Tsunami podcast. Today, we kick off our 5th season with 6 conversations from episode 1, our update from the co-hosts, and a look at some of the patient treatment challenges we'll face this year, particularly connected to the potential approval of resmetirom. There'll be no vault this week. It will be back next week. This conversation features Jörn Schattenberg discussing some of the challenges and opportunity he has faced in assuming the role of Department Director of Gastroenterology and Hepatology at the University of Saarlands, Hamburg, Germany. Jörn discusses the process of learning his new department and working with new colleagues, current strengths of the department, and some of the areas where he hopes to strengthen capabilities and offerings in the years ahead. Not surprisingly, one area of focus is to bring more clinical trial work to Saarlands. Recently, the department has attracted 2 significant EU grants, requiring new hires and revised thinking about the structure to manage a sustained clinical trial competence. One interesting efficiency Jörn found when he arrived at Saarland, the use of pagers to steer patients from event to event and meeting to meeting within the hospital. After having January away from the podcast, Jörn, Louise, and I all are happy to be back. This discussion does not go into tremendous depth, but provides a high-level view of how complicated things might get for Mazel stakeholders in the year ahead. It's a bit to digest, so just sit back, listen, learn, enjoy. When you're done, join the dialogue on our LinkedIn discussion group. Jörn, in your case, when we were on with Scott Friedman in the December episodes, he talked about the idea that sharing a department isn't leadership, and anybody who describes it as being administrative or merely managerial is missing the point. So 2 months in, how is it? How's it different?
Jörn Schattenberg.
That's an interesting question, and I have to say it's a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a transition for me professionally. While I approach it with respect, it's a lot of fun working with a talented group of colleagues every day. Obviously, the focus is a little broader. We have big inpatient department, endoscopy, a lot of outpatients running through our clinics. And I think something I bring to the department at this time is my passion and experience in treating patients with end-stage liver disease, particular metabolic fatty liver disease, obviously, or metabolic dysfunction, associated steatotic liver disease. Now, we've been slowly talking about getting trials up to enroll patients, improving our diagnostic capabilities. The department was in transition for 3 years. There's some aspects that need to be improved at this point, but there's a lot of good things that have been in place and were kept in place, and so we're working on that. And from a philosophical perspective, I think I try to go slowly and bring my expertise in, and so far, it's been at least, let's say, joyful from my side. The team is good, strong going.
Did I see you post in LinkedIn that you're hiring?
That's right. There are 2 big EU grants that have recently been approved, and they're in a preparatory phase. One of the big calls is Liver AIM, which is a big consortium with industry partner, and the IHI call coordinated out of Barcelona this time around. And we're looking at the value of screening, even conducting a clinical trial and screening, but also following up patients we recruited in previous consortia, including Litmus. So there'll be a lot of strong data coming up with long-term follow-up, and that's the good news here. There's 1 or 2 other consortia getting ready for that. So the arena of biomarkers, clinical outcome research, funded by the European Union and strong European centers, is looking good for the next 5 years, and Hamburg now is one of the centers that has joined those groups.
So you're right at the heart of it. Very congratulations.
Can I ask, because all of that's absolutely fantastic, and getting into the department, how people have responded to a more liver-centric view, or a conversation that gets, have you thought about the liver, or have we looked at this? How have people been genuinely enlightened, or I never thought about that? How have you found that start?
Well, in the departments, there's typically a structure where you have people focused on certain specialities, and they divide in classes and in groups. And the group that's been studying liver disease has been doing so successfully, very clinically oriented, very little clinical trials, I would say. So one of my first thoughts was trying to build a clinical study team, study coordinator. There are a few studies ongoing, but very little. So this is something I want to build over the next years. And the work you have to put into to recruit a patient into a clinical trial, or to offer a patient, consider offering, discussing pros and cons, getting ready to obtain informed consent, all that additional work. The physician needs to know that he's backed up on that and has protected time, because it takes a lot of effort. And I think that's one of the the changes I do plan to implement, let them know that this is important for the team and giving them the reassurance to take their time to discuss these treatment options with patients, which is not always done in all places. And I think that's one of the changes we're looking at this time. There's also some aspects of how does the patient navigate through the system. So where does he check in? Actually, they have a paging system, which I found very innovative. So the patient carries a pager, and as soon as the physician's ready, he gets a page. It reads, move to FibroScan, room XYZ, and then he gets called to the physician. So it's a little bit, that was interesting. But then on the other hand, I think some of the, for example, outpatient diagnostics, including FibroScan, weren't as routinely set up for all the appointments. And we worked on some of these pathways for patients, even in the hospital. We've been discussing pathways outside of the hospital, but it's not set that all these diagnostics you need to assess a patient are necessarily run in every inpatient hospital or, let's say, outpatient hospital visit.
So which diagnostics were they regularly running when you got there?
So I'd say, the standards is labs, ultrasound, physical exam, and history. The elastography-based techniques were more reluctantly ordered, and I think this is one thing I wanted to change and really implement it for all patients. The positive thing in the department is that there is a strong radiology group that has a long-standing interest in generating imaging data for those patients. So that was a very easy transition and a good conversation I had with my colleagues at radiology there. And it'll be easier for me compared to the old place to, for example, obtain MRI, PDFF, even MRE, and some experimental imaging technologies. So it's a good place for advanced imaging techniques.
That's exciting. And we'll ask every couple of months how the ride is going.
And how many pages you still have?
You mean the pagers are all
in the UK? We'd lose our pages.
Yeah.
They go out the door. People would forget. I forget. I've got pages on me every now and again when I used to carry them.
In the US, I think it's less they go out the door, more people will start selling them on the street right outside the door, depending upon where your hospital's located. You need to make a buck where you can.
So then you have a different patient showing up for the physician's exam versus the ultrasound.
There you go. If you did not want to reveal how much you were drinking, you might choose to pay someone to take your pager and go do your scans.
No, overall, I think it's been a very interesting and rewarding experience up until here. Again, received a lot of positive feedback, great group of colleagues, and very happy to bring in my expertise and build the team further with them and the focus around liver disease.
Fantastic.
And now back to Roger.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. If you have any questions or comments about the content of this conversation or the entire episode, please put them in the review section of the page from which you downloaded the conversation, or send an email to questions@surfingmash.com. We'll be back next week with a stakeholder-centric look at the issues of 2024. Until then, stay safe, surf on. We'll see you on the podcast. Bye-bye now.